Hello, everyone. Today I'm starting something new, a podcast going to spotlight apprenticeships. So, to introduce myself, my name is Joel Debrah. I'm the co founder of the Apprentice Room and currently a first year apprentice at a global asset manager working in portfolio management. But I guess I'll start by explaining the whole idea of what the Apprentice Room is. So, the Apprentice Room is a network of current apprentices all in first year who look to capture the lifestyle of what an apprentice looks like, going from, how apprentices are doing in the world of work, capturing the raw reality of what apprenticeships entail from the studying element to the working element and even, the work-life balance aspect of it. Because for a long time I've seen on social media that yes, apprenticeships are posted about, they've been growing, but no one really talks about the raw reality behind apprenticeships and what they actually entail, from stories of success to even the struggles behind an apprenticeship journey. And the Apprentice Room looks to bridge that gap between knowledge and opportunity by bringing this information to people who are aspiring apprentices, who may be in year 12 or year 13, or even people who are working in the corporate world who might not actually know what these apprenticeships actually entail and how the programs work. But I guess I'll start by going over my journey from sixth form to actually becoming an apprentice. So we'll take a step back and we'll start by talking about how I found out about being an apprentice in the first place and what the programs actually entail. So growing up in my area, I come from an underrepresented background. The route of university was always pushed onto me, especially since, in terms of culture, that was seen as the only right way to go. You go university, you go to a top 10 university, you do let's say a doctor, a medicine degree, or you do engineering and you go into something that your parents wanted you to be. But for myself, I didn't actually want to pursue that. I actually wanted a career where I feel like my skills could be utilized and in something I actually enjoy and have a good interest in. So for me, GCSEs, I kind of coasted along. I got 7s and 6s in my GCSEs, which is pretty good. Did pretty well there. Sixth form, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd first wanted to become a software engineer. I wanted to go into computer science, but after doing computer science GCSE, I quickly realized that that wasn't the route that was for me. I didn't actually enjoy it, and I fell out of love with the subject after my GCSEs. Going into sixth form, I was deciding what I wanted to do, and I kind of just stumbled upon finance just because a lot of people were talking about it on social media, so I was just like, I might as well check this out. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do when it came to finance, so just like anyone would do, I told everyone that I wanted to be an accountant because that's the only thing that I knew about when it actually came to finance. So during year 12, most of the things I was trying to look into was anything accounting related, but I didn't know where to start in terms of gaining work experience or finding opportunities where I could actually gain proper insight into what an accountant could be. And that's where one of my siblings came in, who actually put me on a platform where I can gain virtual work experience called SpringPod, and another notable one called Farage. So I used that to gain insight into what an accountant would do, the type of skills you need, the qualifications, the ACA and things of that nature. But I realized that my interest wasn't actually genuine as time went through year 12. As I was progressing through my A-levels, and for context, I picked economics, business, and sociology. I quickly realized that actually this wasn't really the right move for me. I didn't really feel like I'd enjoy being an accountant. I realized that I actually liked talking to people. I liked building relationships. I like those sorts of things where I can basically face people. I'm a very interpersonal person, so for me, being an accountant just didn't work out. So then I did some research online. I looked at what careers could you go into in finance that uses those people building skills, those relationship skills, interpersonal skills, etc. And I came across being a consultant. So a consultant, I guess you can call them doctors in finance. People come to you with problems, you provide a solution. you get paid to essentially provide advice and help them with fixing or implementing that solution. So I thought that was very interesting. I didn't know what type of consultant I wanted to be, but it seemed like something that was pretty easy, or seemed easy in terms of how the job role was. It seemed very interesting. And so I did my research into consulting for the second half of year 12. Throughout year 12 summer, I was thinking that, maybe I wanted to be a consultant. I started doing my research, watching videos, trying to see if I could find work experience, but obviously I wasn't successful in year 12. I didn't really land anything. And for me, I was still thinking that I'd try going to university, but I wanted to apply to Cambridge, but I didn't get a 7 in GCSE maths, so I kind of thought that I wouldn't be able to apply to such prestigious universities. So I guess the turning point for me was in summer when I was scrolling on social media, and the start of my actual corporate journey and discovery to apprenticeships was finding the Black Apprenticeship Network that I found through social media. A very good organization that bridges the gap between knowledge and opportunity, ambition and opportunity, a community where people who went to university or people who are apprentices are gathered in one space where they can provide that intimate advice in tailored group chats, tailored to your interests. So for me, I joined that network. I said this was great. I put some of my close friends on the Black Apprenticeship Network as well, because there were so many ambitious people there, even people my age who pretty much knew what they wanted to do, and there was just me who was kind of just coasting along through sixth form. So I joined the network, and that's where I started to meet very talented people, a lot of close friends who, they know who they are. They were really the reason why I started when it comes to this corporate journey. And that's also where I bumped into LinkedIn for the first time, where I then started using LinkedIn as people told me that LinkedIn was apparently the norm in today's world. I personally didn't think that LinkedIn was able to be used by people such as myself, who at the time was in sixth form, not really working a professional job, never got a part-time job. I didn't actually land any work experience till year 13, so I was thinking, what's the point of LinkedIn? But I remember the Black Apprenticeship Network. Through that, I was introduced to Make a Statement, the first ever event I went to by Team Blueprint, where I remember everyone was asking for LinkedIn's, and that's when I realized LinkedIn is actually more important than I thought. It's the new platform where young individuals, Gen Z, are all over the platform trying to network with like-minded individuals who just want to make it into the corporate world. And for me, that's where I was like, oh wow, maybe I really need to step up my game. And in year 12 summer, the summer after year 12, I started thinking, right, I need to think about how I can get work experience. I asked for advice in the various group chats. I met people who guided me, and that's also where I discovered apprenticeships that same summer. I was kind of late to the game. Everyone had a bunch of work experience. CVs were stacked up. So I was trying to think of ways to differentiate myself. And luckily, of course, if it wasn't for the fact that I have an older brother who's been through all of this, he put me on a few resources, such as people would know the Bristol Tracker, also known as, it's now known as Tracker without the E in it. I used that to find some work experience that in year 13 I could still apply for. So the first piece of proper work experience for me was an achievement. Some people don't really class virtual work experience as work experience, but I ran into this platform called Fairfield Enterprise, where I first gained insight into high finance. It was a finance boot camp. It took place in October half term on my birthday as well. I gained some work experience in asset management, investment banking. I gained information about those careers, and for me, that's where I was like, oh, asset management, that sounds really cool. When we did the little trading simulation, I performed better in the buy side one, which was the asset management one. I forgot specifically what it entailed, but I feel like that was much better for me. And that's where I was like, maybe I can try going to asset management, but I'll still be looking around for consulting. And that really motivated me, because once I had that work experience, it was like, wow, I can start to apply for these apprenticeships like these people are doing. Because until then, I did start apprenticeship applications, but I was very behind in terms of, what do you put on a CV? How do you format your CV? How do you stand out without having part-time job experience or in-person work experience? So it's very much a game of catch-up for me throughout year 13. I had the knowledge, but I didn't exactly have the actual experience. So for me, that journey was rough, but getting that work experience was like the first big step forward for me. That was when things started to look up. And I remember because of that impacted my academic attainment. My grades in year 12, they were just average, bang average. I remember my year 12 mocks. I believe I think it was ABB, or I don't remember, but it was a bit around that, pretty decent. But year 13 was where I started to really step it up. That's when my revision started to compound, because I realized I wanted to go into this career, and I thought you needed these crazy good grades to get into these careers. I had a plan. My main plan was actually university, but I thought I could still apply to apprenticeships. So I I decided I'd try aim for Warwick. And luckily I had a mentor who is currently at Warwick. I believe he's probably in final year. Who did help me a lot with my personal statement and with applying to UCAS. I'd really recommend applying to Zero Gravity, which is a mentorship platform if you want to find a mentor who will be able to help you with, getting the right knowledge in terms of standing out in your UCAS applications. I did end up getting the Warwick offer eventually quite late, but I'll talk about that more later. After that work experience, I then bumped into university and the Big City Bright Futures program as well, which is one of the best things I've ever done, really. The 3 week paid internship, which I did end up getting the summer before I started work, that's pretty much what for me confirmed that I wanted to go into asset management, as well as one more experience that I did before that in February, through Inter University again. So I'd recommend signing up to the Inter University newsletter. I applied to two things: Apex Partners and Fairix Capital's Insight program. I didn't get into Apex Partners, but I did get into Fairix Capital. It was an insight day that was mainly focused on private credit. But for me, that was what made me think, oh yeah, I really want to go into, asset management. Like, seeing what they do is so cool. Gaining all the insight into the different asset classes within asset management. I remember how cool. I still remember the inside day to this day, and I remember the people I met there. Very, very cool people. Shout out to Camille, who I met during that Fairix experience. I'm still good friends with him to this day. And yeah, with that on my CV, it really made my applications more competitive. Applying to apprenticeships, applying to university. And so with that allowed me to then get to more later stages, interview stages. I actually secured 7 assessment centers during my whole process. I didn't attend all 7 assessment centers. I did 4 of those. One was at EY, one was at PwC, one was at Hazemac. One is currently at the company I'm at, Global Asset Manager, which was when I then got the offer. And the 3 others that I didn't do were Rothschild for wealth management, BNP Paribas for global banking, and Commerce Bank for debt capital markets lending. 3 of which I had to turn down because I was actually on holiday at the time in Africa. So it was a bit painful, but by the grace of God, it did work out in the end. I remember when I did my 4th assessment center, and even before that, the interview stage, they actually recognized the work experience that I had on my CV. So Fairix Capital was something that was discussed during the interview briefly, but it did help me stand out because I actually had, a very good piece of relevant work experience. So my advice immediately would be, if you're looking to get work experience, sure, having work experience is beneficial, but make sure it's genuinely relevant to what you want to do. I'd also say that work experience is great at giving you that clarity that you need to decide what career you want to go into, because I wanted to be a software engineer at first, then I wanted to be an accountant, and I wanted to be a consultant, and now I'm in asset management. It was because of doing work experience, virtual work experience, watching videos on YouTube as well. I don't see a lot of people do that. I used to watch like long videos of what consultants do, strategy consulting, implementation consulting, etc., etc., the best companies to do that, the benefits, the drawbacks. So I watched all of those videos. I learned about the qualifications needed. I learned about the skills needed. And that also gave me clarity alongside doing work experience. So I I think for me, once I had gotten that offer, I remember doing the assessment center. Group task was amazing. I met again Camille at the group task who it was great to see him there. Really cool peoples. And the group task went well, the final interview went well, and I got the offer second week of April, which is really late as well. You know, I wasn't really worried in terms of whether I would have gotten the offer or not. It was more of a thing of I just wanted one offer so I could stop application season. And I guess the company that I'm at now, to be honest, was my dream company. So um, it's really, really, it still makes me happy. Like, it's such a privilege to be at such a global institution with so much good reputation. Had I gone to university or had I not gotten this offer, I most likely would have went to Warwick for global sustainable development, where I did meet the offer on results day, and I would have tried to get into the company I'm currently at anyway. So it's kind of like you're starting at the final destination. The company I'm at was meant to be the finish line, but now I've started at the finish line. So it's a very strange feeling. It's like having to remap your whole like vision, your whole journey. It's crazy to be to start in a global asset manager at the age of 18, where I'm in fixed income portfolio management at the moment, more on the strategy side. So that role is really, it's like it's not the same every day. It really applies my love for economics, because you're having to digest the macro news that's going on, what's going on in US politics, for example. How does that affect, since I sit within fixed income, how does that affect bonds? How does that affect the yield of certain bond instruments or debt instruments? It's a really cool role. And even though, I'm 2 months in, I still understand like 5% of what's going on. But the joy behind such technical roles is that the learning curve is so steep that you're never gonna get bored of the whole like role. It really is amazing. I'll just take a minute to pause. Like, if you're looking to gain insight into apprenticeships like this, I'd really recommend tuning into this podcast. This will be a reoccurring thing, hopefully an every Saturday or weekend thing, where we spotlight apprenticeships and talk about the raw reality behind apprenticeships. But back to my journey. Once I'd got my offer, I got really complacent in terms of academics, my A levels, because once I got the offer, it was like I didn't really need to revise. Well, I was losing the motivation to revise because my grade requirements were not as high as I thought they'd be. That's the thing so my apprenticeship is also a level 4. So with level 4 apprenticeships, the grade requirements typically tend to be lower. So having received my grade requirements, I was like, oh, maybe I don't really need to revise. It's not really much effort I have to put in. So I kind of just like coasted along through sixth form again. My biggest piece of advice is really at least be revising by January. I started revising after Easter. You really don't want the stress of having to go through everything. I did have my revision resources made ahead of time, but it still made things very stressful because, had I not revised last second anyway, I wouldn't have met my Warwick offer at all. I can confidently say that. And I still give glory to God for the fact that I got into Warwick. It was hard to turn down Warwick in the end if I skip to results day now, because during the summer I did say I did got Big City Bright Futures, so that work experience program was 3 weeks. It was paid. I did it in fixed income, product strategy and development, which is it was very good because it was very applicable to what I currently do. It gave me the nice insight into what I'd typically be doing day to day. There were a lot of professionals who were quite late in their career could give me that advice. I did use that as an opportunity to find out more about the CFA, which hopefully one day, who knows, I might do that as well. 1.5K programs will be dropping in early December, so with that, Big C Bright Futures, really, really good opportunity to gain probably one of the best like pieces of real raw work experience that you can get as a sixth form student, especially given that Big C Bright Futures into university. They partner with amazing firms like Alliance Bernstein, you have BlackRock, Evercore, Carlyle, Bloomberg, Tradeweb, all of these amazing companies. And yeah, the fact that students get to get this work experience at such a young age is amazing. I was also lucky enough to get Rothschild's Pioneer program, which is it's a 1 week insight into Rothschild, into their global advisory arm, into their wealth management arm, into their Redburn arm. Really good for if you're going to university and you kind of need that boost when you're applying to spring weeks. That work experience is really good to have on your CV. So it's Big C Bright Futures, really strong to have on your CV when you're applying to spring weeks. And finally, the work experience program that I was lucky enough to get, but I didn't end up doing, was the Morgan Stanley Step In, Step Up program, Foundation Finance. 1 week piece of work experience in Canary Wharf. They pay for your hotel stay and all of that. It's really good. Again, it gives you I'm pretty sure it fast tracks to a spring week at MS or final round. I forgot, but I didn't do it because I ended up accepting my offer at my global asset manager. I think for me, once I got that offer, it was a little difficult to make the decision. I had a few fast tracks to spring weeks had I gone Warwick, but I decided that I think I'd be better off starting early on in my career as such a global asset manager. So I guess I'll move on to what being an apprentice actually entails. So what does being an apprentice entail? I guess you walk into the world at the age of 18 and it can feel a bit weird. You're around a bunch of professionals who might have children, and the children might be the same age as you. I've had these conversations where they're like, "Oh, my son is a few years younger than you, by the way." And I'm just there like, wow. They never fail to make you realize how young you are as well. I guess some people say you're prone to imposter syndrome. I think that is a real thing. Imposter syndrome is unavoidable. There will be times where you're sat in meetings or you're sat on calls or even like on your desk in everyday life, and like you quickly realize that you actually know nothing about what you're doing when you jump into your career. Yeah, you can study the job description and you can prepare for these interviews and you can prepare like the technical theory, but it's just not the same as working in the actual job role. For me, on day one, I quickly realized, day one on the desk, quickly realized, yeah, there's a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn. It's like a whole new language. Thinking about how to conduct yourself in corporate, how to carry yourself properly, adjusting to the norms and values that are like acceptable within the corporate space, from what you have to wear to how you have to act, your demeanor, your behavior, mannerisms. It's a lot. And if you don't have like older people or like senior figures within the corporate space, it can be really hard to know how to act. But I think a lot of companies are really good at supporting people with that jump. So for me, I had an orientation week where they kind of gave us the rundown of here's what an apprentice should do, here's how the program works, here's how you might want to think or do in terms of certain things to kind of excel, whether that be asking questions, showing curiosity, taking the initiative to do certain things and then asking for feedback. I do a lot of these things and it's allowed me to settle in quite nicely to my role. I guess in terms of the studying element, it really depends. The way my apprenticeship works, I study towards a level 4 qualification called the CISI. a Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments Level 4 qualification where there's 3 exams. There's one exam on securities and investments, there's another exam on risk, and there's another exam on regulation. My apprenticeship program is 18 months, and after that, hopefully if I do well, then I roll off into a full-time role. So it's really, I guess it's kind of like an audition. Once you make it into the firm, people always say the easiest part of the whole process is getting the offer. That is actually true. You know, you have the offer, but then it's a thing like, how do I ensure that I actually get the permanent job? Because still, you could do all of the whole program, you could do the exams, and they might not even let you back into the firm because on the job you didn't actually perform, or there were certain mistakes that you made that was like to the team. They're like, oh, you know, we don't want this guy back in. So there's really a lot of pressure you can feel from young, and especially because I guess for me more of a cultural thing, but telling people in my family that, you know, I'm doing an apprenticeship instead of going to university, I had to sit down and explain, you know, here's how an apprenticeship works. You study and you work and you get paid, you get qualification. It's kind of like a shock because you're not going to university, you're not following the traditional route. Having to convince your family that actually this is the right decision to make. It's probably one of the hardest parts of taking an apprenticeship because there's additional pressure on you to actually, you know, perform. If you do the apprenticeship and then, you know, I don't know, you get let go or you get made redundant, and like, I can't imagine how that could feel, going back to like your close ones and then saying, oh, I didn't convert the apprenticeship, or I got made redundant, or like things of that nature. So being an apprentice is it's quite a mouthful. It's a lot to kind of get used to, but it's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. The reason why I say that is because for me, being an apprentice allows you to gain skills that you wouldn't gain in university. And I guess the biggest reason as to why I took this over university is because I don't really, like, people say, okay, apprentices don't have a social life, which is partially true to an extent. It kind of is what you make of it. But the lifestyle that people, or the social life that people talk about, is normally tied to going to parties, going to all of these social gatherings, which for me, I mean, I don't really leave the house anyway. I don't really go to all of these social gatherings or parties, or I don't really go out much. So for me, it was like, I'm not really missing out on anything. So I took the route faster way into the industry, faster way into a great pipeline. And I guess since I wanted to go into asset management, following the Big C Bright Futures program, it was like, yes, this is definitely the route I want to take. So I guess any advice I'd give bouncing off of that is that if you're doing an apprenticeship, actually do it because you think you're going to enjoy the job. I mean, apprenticeships also give you those selection pressures of, right, do I like this? Do I like this role? Do I like what I'm doing? Is this too hard for me? Is this not something I could see myself doing in XYZ years? It also gives you those huge selection pressures. It teaches you to make decisions, like more heavy decisions, quicker, because, you know, you're an apprentice. You know, people say your career options are quite limited. I guess it depends on the firm you're in. Once you kind of go in, I wouldn't say there's no way out, but it's hard to then say, oh, I don't want to do consulting anymore. I don't like this apprenticeship. I want to go and do something else, because you have no fallback. You've cancelled or you've declined university unless you defer your offer for a year, which some people do. And I guess taking a gap year, that can be, again, think about cultural things. How would your family feel if you took a gap year? So for me, I didn't really think of a gap year. It's like, I either get this or there's no other option. But yeah, going into kind of how personal branding has helped me and how LinkedIn has helped me, because I did say LinkedIn was a pivotal part of my journey. The usage of LinkedIn has really transformed the way I think and the way I articulate myself as an individual. I don't think my head would have been this screwed on if I wasn't using LinkedIn after year 12 summer. So I started LinkedIn August 2024, July 2024 to be exact, but I started posting August 2024. And when I saw what certain people were achieving at such a young age, I was like, it really showed me that, one, people from diverse backgrounds can actually achieve things. So I had this belief that if you come from a certain area, there's limitations, you can't break these barriers. LinkedIn showed me otherwise. I was like, wow, maybe there is a future for me. It also showed me that, some of these connections you make, lifelong friends, there are some people I've networked with on LinkedIn. I've met them in real life. I've gone on to do great things with them. I've spoken on some panels with some great people before. So LinkedIn's really been what's brought me these opportunities. It's given me my own identity beyond just being now an apprentice or someone with just a CV and a cover letter or whatever. LinkedIn kind of gives you that identity. It gives you life beyond just being your average Joe or average candidate. So LinkedIn is really transformational for me. I started posting in August 2024, as I said, and I consistently but documented my journey from a sixth form student to now where I'm at now, an apprentice. And I still continue to document my journey where I can, talk about the progress I've made or any reflections I have in terms of being in the corporate world. So for me, success on LinkedIn, what does that actually look like to me? Impact. Success on LinkedIn looks at impact. For me, it was seeing people reaching out to me and saying, I really like your posts. The way you talk about your faith, the way you talk about your journey, I really like this. Could you help me get into this position? There's so much eager people who reach out to me almost every other day, and it's still amazing to see that so much people are interested in my journey. So much people have seen my journey over the years and have appreciated or complimented me on how far I've come. It's really, really been amazing, and it's meant a lot to me. The fact that, this time last year, I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do, and now I'm in a position where I can give back, where I can provide mentorship, where I can help people out. I do have a few mentees who I regularly try to help with apprenticeship applications, because I do understand that nowadays there's been a shift in terms of what people want to do. People now want to go into an apprenticeship over university because the benefits are always talked about on social media. I still wouldn't ever discount the university option. I still think it would have been great for me. I think it's just down to ultimately you and what you want. But yeah, using LinkedIn has brought me so many opportunities, and I think it will continue to bring me a lot of these opportunities. Like, I wouldn't have ever thought of starting this if it wasn't for LinkedIn. I realize my voice is quite powerful. I think some of the things I say could really help future change makers, could really help people who are from similar backgrounds like myself, who think that there's really no hope, but there actually is. I mean, I didn't really get any work experience leading up to my offer apart from the Fair Oaks Capital, which was literally just an inside day, and the Fairfield Enterprise Finance Bootcamp, which was even virtual. So I'd say that it's not as hard as people think. I won't say that landing an apprenticeship is hard, but I think people do definitely overcomplicate the difficulty, and there's like a stigma going around that you need XYZ amount of work experience to get to even fly through the application stages. I think every year this happens, and what I'd say to that is that you'll soon realize that, or if you haven't already, your work experience, sure, it can get you through to the next stage, but you could have 10 and someone with one piece of work experience could still get the offer over you, or could still get the interview over you. I mean, everyone in my assessment center had part-time job experience, but I didn't. And I still managed to stand out because of my extracurricular interests. And touching on the extracurricular interests, what I did to differentiate myself was, so any leadership role within your sixth form, I guess my equivalent of being a prefect in my school was being a sixth form student leader. whilst I did want to, I did actually do it because I wanted to give back. It wasn't just for the sake of having it on my CV, but doing things that you genuinely enjoy. I wouldn't say like don't do extracurriculars just for the sake of having extracurriculars and saying, oh, I do extracurriculars. I do basketball. I'm the team captain. I actually do it because you enjoy it. It really, it really pushes the fact that you're authentic and you have things aside from just being a guy who does work experience or goes to all these insight days, because nowadays it's starting to become a thing where everyone pretty much has work experience. It's more down to the volunteering and extracurriculars that you do. As a sixth form student leader, I use the fact that I did volunteering, for example, charitable initiatives, or I hosted workshops for a bunch of, at the time, year 12s. I spoke in front of the sixth form. I spoke in front of the school on sixth form open evening night. It's various things like that that can differentiate you as an applicant, and it can really give you things to talk about in terms of what you can bring to the table as an apprentice and why they should take you on instead of just another candidate. So extracurricular is definitely useful for your UCAS and definitely useful even for things to talk about LinkedIn, things to kind of make you stand out as someone on LinkedIn. And so I guess now I'll touch on what I kind of want this podcast to be. This is just an intro. This is just going over my thoughts, why I started this. My vision with the Apprentice Room is that I want to capture the lifestyle of apprenticeships. I really want to show that there's more to just the average 9 to 5. There's more going on inside an apprentice's head than just we are avoiding university debt, so we took on an apprenticeship. There's more to being an apprentice than just avoiding the university debt. There's more to being an apprentice than just you're studying or you're gaining a qualification, although that is a very feasible reason to do an apprenticeship. I want to show that there's so many different corporate careers now, and companies are continuing to open more that are now apprenticeships. I want to show that apprentices are, talked about or really cared about by these companies. The early talent pipeline, companies are opening apprenticeships because it's a great way to gather individuals from underrepresented backgrounds or diverse backgrounds with different mindsets, with different ways of critically thinking. People have the ability to challenge status quo and bring about change for the future of the company from starting from a junior talent level. I think an apprenticeship is an invaluable opportunity to gain the knowledge that, sure, you can do a spring week and a summer internship, but honestly, it's such a huge advantage being in the industry at such a young age. I just think there's so much value beyond even working, like the networking opportunities to network with all these senior professionals who can guide you, who can teach you what's right from wrong from the start, who can tell you about the mistakes they made so that you can avoid them. I really want to capture that through doing this podcast series where I bring on different guests who are either current apprentices or are ex-apprentices who have been successful through the apprenticeship pipeline, whether they work in finance, whether they work in law, whether they're in real estate, whether they're even in healthcare, which is a growing area that apprenticeships are starting to open, and even whether they're in tech, all sorts of careers. And I guess my vision is to kind of really put emphasis on the fact that being an apprentice is a privilege. Yes, we're in this position. It's easy to forget how much of an opportunity this is. But this is to show that you also shouldn't get complacent as an apprentice. I want to go over the struggles that apprentices face as well. Exams, the imposter syndrome. How do I stand out? How do I make myself feel seen or heard as an 18, 19-year-old, an 18 to 22-year-old trying to navigate the corporate world without a single clue, without schools necessarily teaching them how to, act in these sort of spaces. And I really wanna show that, there's so much people from underrepresented backgrounds who were, let's just say, their futures could have been a lot different had they have not taken an apprenticeship, had they have not clicked that apply button once. And I just want to capture the opportunities that you can do to make yourself stand out, because nowadays there's a lot of people, asking me questions about how can I stand out, how can I get extracurriculars, what can I do, what work experience is good, what's the best apprenticeship program to get. I don't necessarily think there's a best apprenticeship program. I definitely think there's some that are better than others, but I think it's again down to the individual. And I really want to show that the Apprentice Room is here to capture the reality of all of the things I've talked about before, and definitely show that apprenticeships are, I guess you could say, they're the way forward. I still think graduate schemes are great for bringing on people from these high-ranking institutions who can really show that through going through these high-ranking institutions, through doing all their summer internships, they can definitely translate those skills into the industry. But I just think that through this podcast can really show that even to university students that just because you're in a certain apprenticeship doesn't mean you can't always move. I think people haven't talked enough about the mobility opportunities as an apprentice. They're going from, I don't know, professional services to something else, to even moving mid-career, mid-apprenticeship, moving from a certain role to a certain role because of networking. How you can kind of make that move and facilitate that move. The opportunities that comes with rotational programs, all of these things I hope to cover within this podcast. And I hope to impact those who might think that's all over. Apprenticeships are even for people who are in gap years, who might be in university. There are people who are in their 20s who have started degree apprenticeships, which are, again, really good. You get that qualification, you get the degree, and you get the experience. And I hope to bring on guests that can really show to you that, yeah, just because they're not at university doesn't mean that they're not at an advantage. Doesn't mean that just because they might have no degree like myself, that in the future I couldn't be better off than a lot of other people in university. And yeah, I guess with this podcast, any questions that you might have, feel free to drop them. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn. You can find me Joel Debrah on LinkedIn, Joel Debrah, Debrah. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find the Apprentice Room on all socials, Instagram, which I hope to get up and running soon. TikTok as well. You can find the Apprentice Room on TikTok. And we hope to post more. And you can find the Apprentice Room on YouTube as well, which is where I'll be uploading these podcasts regularly, hopefully, as I hope to bring on different guests. I did co-found this with my close colleague, Sofien, who is not here today, but Sofien is a very, very ambitious individual. His ambition is very infectious. It really inspires me as well. So yeah, just to wrap up this short monologue or short episode, I just want to say this is the start of something big. It's the start of a huge foundation. I hope to bring these episodes regularly, whether through TikTok, whether through LinkedIn, whether on YouTube, talk about topics that need to be explored in regards to apprenticeships. And I'm happy to really get started with this. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I've always wanted to talk about my journey, which I've just done earlier. I've always wanted to give other people the opportunity to talk about their journeys into the industry, whether that be through going to college, whether that be through sixth form, whether that be through dropping out of university and then applying. I really want to use this as a space to allow people to open up to everyone as well, to inspire other people, to act as trailblazers who have been there before. I really want this to be a space where people can speak up about their stories, a podium that kind of lifts people on high. And for me, I'm happy to have any apprentice on. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. You can always find me. I'm sure you won't be able to miss me with my grayed out profile picture. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this podcast episode. If you really enjoyed this first podcast episode, this will be uploaded on all socials. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where everything will be uploaded regularly. Don't forget to follow the TikTok where we hope to vlog our experiences. We hope to capture the raw reality of being an apprentice. I'd like to hopefully think of ourselves one day as the corporate beta squad. That's what I like to call it. That's how I describe it to other people. And yeah, I guess stay tuned for more future podcast episodes where we'll be talking more about, different people's journeys. Next week, I should have an exciting guest, or at the time I'm saying this next week, but when the episodes do get uploaded, I should have a few guests already, some working in finance, law. So yeah, looking forward to it. And thank you guys for watching.